My name is Emily Carter. I am 26. I work 2 jobs and I cook dinners when I can. I have a small scar on my left thumb from when I was little and burned a pancake. I like quiet mornings, black coffee, and the same blue sweater my mom knitted for me. I love my family, even when they make me hurt. Thanksgiving was a big day at Grandma Rose's house. The table was long and full of food: turkey, stuffing, green beans, pies that smelled like cinnamon. The house felt warm and loud. Laughter bounced off the walls. Plates clinked. Someone always told a joke that wasn't funny, and everyone laughed anyway because it was family. My brother Jake sat at the head of the table like he owned the room. He is 30 and talks fast. He wears expensive watches and likes to tell stories about his clients at work, even if no one asked. Jake has a smile that opens doors. He also has a habit of making people small to make himself look big. We all chewed and passed plates. Someone asked Emma, my cousin, about her new job. Grandma told a story about when Dad tried to carve the turkey and nearly took someone's finger. Then, out of nowhere, Jake's voice cut the air. It was the kind of voice that made people look up. "You know," Jake said, loud enough for the whole room, "Emily never contributes anything. She takes and takes. She's always got an excuse." He leaned back like he had just said the funniest thing. His look said, "I know something about her you don't." I felt the heat in my face. It was the kind of heat that leaps up when someone points a finger at you in a crowd and all eyes swing to you like a spotlight. People's forks paused. The radio in my head went quiet. My chest felt tight. My mother's face went red. She always defended me, even when I did not ask her to. Grandma's hands flew to her chest. Cousins glanced at each other. My aunt's mouth opened and shut like she forgot how to breathe. Jake kept going. He listed little things. She didn't help with rent when we were short. She never pays her share of Mom's phone bill. She takes family money and gives excuses. He said it like he was reading a list of Emily's failures, like he had been keeping notes in a little book. The room shook. Not with thunder, just with polite anger. People who love each other sometimes speak like knives. The pain is sharper because it comes from inside the house. I had rehearsed responses in my head before. I had practiced being quiet when he attacked me, because quiet kept peace. Quiet kept dinners from breaking. But that day, something in me flipped. Maybe it was all the nights I worked late and still woke up early. Maybe it was all the times I paid things so others wouldn't worry. Maybe it was the tiredness in my bones from holding things up until I couldn't feel them. So I stood up. I smiled. It was a small smile, not mean, not fake. Just a smile that said I knew something they didn't. I could feel the chair scrape. The whole house held its breath. "Check your accounts," I said. The words were small, but the room heard them like a bell. Then Jake stared at me and blinked. I sat down slowly. My heart thudded like a drum. I watched his mouth form questions he did not say. Seconds later, phones started ringing. At first it was one or two. Then it was many. The clatter of ringtones mixed with the scrape of chairs. Phones buzzed on the table. People scrambled to their pockets. My cousin knocked over his glass as he reached. Eyes darted around. Someone's phone chimed with a bank alert. Another lit up with a message. The sudden noise filled the kitchen like a wave. And then the entire table went silent. No one answered me. No one laughed. My mother's hand shook on the table. Jake's face went white. He looked at his phone like a man trying to remember if he had locked a door. He opened the banking app and stared. His jaw tightened. My Aunt Brienne gasped. Grandma held the back of a chair like it would keep her steady. I had said only 3 words: check your accounts. But those words carried the weight of every late night, every anonymous grocery bag on their doorstep, every small payment I had made in silence so their lives did not splinter. I had paid for repairs, paid off a credit card, covered bills I knew would choke them. I had done it quietly because I did not want thanks. I did it because family matters. Phones kept ringing. A bank alert sang louder than a song. My phone buzzed too. I watched the screen without reaching for it. I wanted them to see. Jake's hand trembled as he scrolled. His watch glinted. I could see the reflection of his phone on its face. The light from the screen painted his eyeballs with numbers that made his face go hollow. Then someone at the end of the table, Aunt Claire, stood up too. She was small and fierce and never afraid to say the thing everyone else was thinking. She pointed at Jake. "You lied," she said. It was quieter than Jake's shouting, but it cut like a clean knife. "You lied about her." "Who told you that?" Jake opened his mouth. He could not find the words. The ring of the phone on the table sounded like a drumroll. No one moved. The ticking clock above the stove sounded louder than the ringtones. The house breathed in. At that moment, I remembered the nights I had sat at my tiny kitchen table with my laptop open and a spreadsheet on the screen. I remembered the PayPal confirmations, the bank transfers I sent from a side business I ran at night making digital designs and selling them online. I remembered sending money with notes that said for mom's rent or for grandma's meds. I remembered nursing my ankle in the hospital while I counted the money I had and thought of what mattered. I remembered the time I sold my old camera so the car could be fixed. No one knew. No one had to. But my quiet work had built a bridge for my family. It had been invisible because I wanted it to be. I thought kindness did not need a medal. But Jake's words made that kindness look like laziness in other people's eyes. He had called me selfish in front of everyone. He had made people doubt the very things I had done to hold them together.
I did not plan for the phones to ring like that. I did not plan for bank alerts to pop up at the exact moment I spoke. The universe picked the timing. It was funny like that sometimes, how truth shows up in doorways with perfect timing. My mother's phone lit up with a message from the bank, deposit received, $2,500. Her hand fell to her mouth. She looked at me and then at the screen. Her eyes filled with confusion and something else, shock. My cousin's phone chimed, payment received, $1,200. He blinked as if he had forgotten he had money. Grandma's phone, the old flip one she only used for calls, buzzed too. She stared at it like it was a bird she had never seen. "For my meds," she whispered, reading the tiny message on the screen. Jake kept scrolling. The numbers built up on his screen like a secret code. He had always liked being the center of stories, and now he was a story that had gone wrong. The room was quiet enough to hear the kettle in the kitchen hum. A fork fell. Someone choked on a piece of cranberry sauce. My uncle reached for his phone but could not bring himself to look. Then a new sound cut through, a sharp knock at the front door. Everyone looked toward the door like it was a new kind of thunder. The knock sounded steady, like someone who had a right to be there and would not take a no for an answer. The house felt a hairline away from breaking. Voices tried to start, then stopped. Chairs scraped. Forks clattered. Who could that be now? Grandma whispered. My mother's hands trembled so much that she could not hold her napkin steady. Jake stood up then, as if he could go and open the door and make the knock go away. He was pale, his lips pressed thin. He opened the door a crack and looked out. A man stood on the porch in a dark coat. He held a small pad and a badge that flashed when he shifted. Behind him, a small car idled, its engine humming. The man at the door cleared his throat. He said, "Is there an Emily Carter here?" I felt every eye in the house land on me like a physical thing. I felt my knees go a little weak. My heart beat fast and loud, like a drum in a small room. "Yes," I said. My voice was small but clear. The man looked at Jake for a second, then back at me. He said, "I'm with the bank's fraud department. We had a report about unusual transfers from one account to multiple family members. We need to ask a few questions." The kitchen sounded far away. I could smell the turkey, but it felt like it was in a different house. I could hear my own breathing. Jake's face went the color of the mashed potatoes. My mother's mouth opened and closed like she had lost something. My aunt stepped back like a woman trying not to topple. The man at the door showed his badge briefly. He looked like he had breakfast in his teeth and a folder of papers. He smiled politely and said, "We'll need to check a few things to make sure these deposits were authorized." Authorized. The word hit the room hard. It made the air feel thin. I remembered signing my name on forms, clicking confirm on pay apps, and writing notes like for family. I remembered the times I waited for money to move through the night. I remembered the industry jargon of accounts and transfers foreign to Grandma Rose. I had tried for years to be invisible in my help. I had not wanted fanfare. I had not wanted to be praised. I only wanted my family to be okay. But standing there with a man from the bank at the door, I realized being invisible had a cost. It left room for other people to tell the story. It left room for lies to grow in the silence. Jake swallowed. He looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time, or like he was trying to remember why he had spoken so carelessly. The room hung on his breath. My phone started buzzing again. This time, it was not just ringtones. It was text messages, emails, calls from numbers I knew and numbers I did not. The bank's message requesting proof. A voicemail from someone from Jake's office asking about a wire. My name was in the subject line of an email that came through with a long list of transfers. I felt like I was standing on a stage and the lights kept turning toward me. I felt scared. I felt angry. My hands trembled as I clutched the edge of the table. Grandma walked forward like an old ship finding steady water. Her knees bent and she put both hands on my shoulders. "Emily," she said softly, "what did you do?" Her voice was not accusing. It was small and confused and full of love. I looked at her and thought of the nights she sat on the couch and crocheted and told me to be kind because everyone is fighting some hard fight. I had been trying to fight part of that fight for her without making noise. I took a breath. I could tell them the truth. I could say the whole story, how I started selling designs online, how I got a small check here and there, how I decided to put that money into a shared family account so no one would worry. I could tell them about the times I paid a bill to stop a light from going out, a time I sent money for a car repair, the night I chose to sleep in my car so Mom could use the heating unit. I could tell them about the sorrow of being accused when I had been trying to help. But the knock at the door had not stopped. The man from the bank waited with his pad. The house smelled of pies and secrets. My brother sat like a man who had opened a window and let a storm find its way in. I opened my mouth to speak. The words came out small, like seeds. "I did it because I love you," I said. "I did it because you needed help and I could do it. I didn't want anyone to feel wrong." I looked around the table. Faces were wet with tears or shock. Jake's eyes were on mine like someone trying to read a map they did not understand. But right after I said that, right as the last word left my mouth, the bankman cleared his throat again and said, "We're also seeing a series of transfers from an account linked to a company that hasn't filed taxes. We have to ask about the account and who authorized it." The room closed tighter. People took a step back like the floor had slipped. The sound of the turkey being carved was very small suddenly. My chest felt like it had something on it. I saw the worry in my mother's face deepen like a bruise. Then, without warning, someone's phone lit up with a message that made everyone look at Jake. The message was from a number Jake hadn't saved. It read, "Mr. Carter, this is collections. Your account shows a large incoming transfer labeled family support linked to multiple accounts. Please confirm." Jake's face drained color. His hand went to his watch as if he could stop time. He looked at me like a man who had been caught with a truth he did not expect. My breath hitched. The man from the bank looked at Jake, then toward my mother, then back at me. The quiet in the room pressed against my ears. And then a new sound rose in the house, a low, steady beeping that I did not recognize. It was the fire alarm in the hallway. It started slow and then faster. It made people flinch and move. Someone shouted, "Is that the smoke alarm?" Grandma stood like she was ready to march straight into the fire. No one knew what to do. The fire alarm was not supposed to go off. The oven was not that hot. The lights did not flicker. Yet the beeping grew louder. It chased the silence from the room. And in the middle of that loud beeping, Jake's phone lit with another message. He stared at it and his face shuddered as if he had been dropped into cold water. No one spoke. The beeping filled the air. My palms were sweating. I looked at the man in the coat. He put his hand to his ear and said into a small headset, "We have an unusual situation here. Please advise." My heart thudded so loudly I thought everyone could hear it. I felt like I had taken a match to something old and watched it flame, and now the whole house was full of smoke and people who didn't know what to do next. That is where I stop this part of my story. The table sat in quiet. The turkey sat steaming. The bank man waited. The beeping kept going. Everyone looked at me like I held the key to a locked door. And I held the secret of why I had said, check your accounts. I held the quiet work I had done for years. I held the truth they did not want to hear and the fear of what might happen if the truth came out in a way it could not be fixed with hugs and apologies. The door was half open. The man outside with the pad remained there. Phones kept chiming. The fire alarm would not stop. Jake's face was pale. My mother's hands were clasped together. Grandma squeezed my shoulders like a child who needs to be brave. I looked at them all and let the silence stretch a moment longer, because some stories need a breath before they continue. What happens next is not easy. The house has secrets. So do I. The sound of the fire alarm grew louder, and the man at the door cleared his throat again. The beeping filled the house. It sounded loud and angry. It made people jump and clutch their chairs. Grandma Rose put her hand to her ear like sound was a thing that could hurt. The man from the bank stood on the porch watching everything like a man who had walked into the middle of a movie and had not read the script. Jake's phone buzzed again. He moved as if ropes tied his hands. His face was tight. The light from the screen turned his eyes into small moons. He had always liked to be in charge. He had always liked the sound of other people listening to him. Now the sound of phones was louder than his voice. Someone tried to turn off the fire alarm. My cousin Ben ran down the hallway and grabbed the small plastic box. He twisted and hit the button. The beeping stopped for a breath and then started again, louder this time. Like a bully that did not want to go away. Maybe it's the batteries, my aunt whispered. Everyone looked at the alarm like it might have an answer written on it. My uncle, who works with wires and boxes, went to the kitchen light switch and flicked it. Nothing changed. The house felt upside down. The man at the door cleared his throat and stepped inside slowly. He held his coat tight around him as if the cold was his shield. He smiled, but his smile was sorry. He said, "My name is Mark. I'm from the bank fraud unit. We got a report and then a call from collections. We're trying to sort out a pattern of transfers. We will need to ask some questions." Mark's voice was careful. He did not want to break anything that might still be fixed. He also did not want to make promises he could not keep. My mother's face had gone 2 shades paler. She looked like someone who had been running and just stopped. Her hands shook. She blinked slow as if she was trying to push sleep out of her eyes. She said to Mark, "Is Emily in trouble?" Mark looked at me and then at my mother. "We need to see some IDs. Just to confirm who authorized transfers. And we need to know the source accounts." I felt the room tilt. Papers rustled. Jake's jaw worked as he read a message from his phone. He kept looking at me like if he asked me hard enough, I would confess to being a thief or a liar. But I had not stolen. I had paid. I had taken my hard work and sent it to keep the people I love afloat. My mother stood up slowly, like someone walking on ice. She reached across the table for the stack of envelopes where bills waited with patient faces. She had always kept things in order, like a small soldier who tucked bills into envelopes and labeled them with dates. She handed Mark an envelope and her old ID. Her hands trembled, or maybe they were cold. She said, "If there is a mistake, we'll fix it. Emily, say something." I looked at the bankman and then at Jake. The house felt very small. I wanted to tell everything, to open my laptop and show spreadsheets and receipts and messages and little notes I had sent. I wanted to show how I had used an online business selling designs to earn money. I wanted them to see the names on my bank statements that I had chosen to write as family support because I did not want to shame anyone with the word debt. My voice was small. "I did it to help," I said. "I did not want anyone to worry. I sent money into accounts that needed it. I thought it would be better if bills were paid before anyone panicked." Mark nodded and did not look like he blamed me. He looked like a man who had seen things like this and knew it was messy. He asked calmly, "Did you have permission to transfer from the company account?" Jake's face went tight. He looked like a man watching a boat sink that he had helped cut a hole in. My mother was silent. The room held its breath. "No," I said. "But it was money I earned. I used my account to send money to yours. I always clicked confirm. I sent notes like for rent or for meds. I never hid that money. I just didn't write long stories about it. Mark read something on his little pad and then asked, "Can you explain who owns the company account linked to these transfers?" I thought about the small business I had built late at night on my laptop. I thought about the design I had sold to a stranger and the joy I felt when a payment hit my account. I thought of working through weekends and missing movies and parties so I could save. I had not told them because I did not want anyone to feel guilty accepting help. I had wanted to be a quiet bridge, not a showy parade. I was not ready to tell them about the company yet. Not because I wanted to hide, but because telling would make the kindness look like a story with terms and forms, and that would be ugly. I had always thought kindness was small, not legal. Mark's phone rang. He answered and spoke into it softly. I could hear the word fraud like an echo. He looked at me and then back at Jake. "There's a red flag about taxes," he said. "The company linked to these transfers hasn't filed. We need to know who is responsible for that company." Jake's face dissolved. He could not meet anyone's eyes. He muttered something about not knowing. He said he had never seen invoices. It sounded like a plea. My mother folded into herself like a small bird hiding from a storm. "We have always trusted him to handle the family finances," she said. Her voice was a thread. "But we never thought he would say such things." My aunt's voice came out sharp and thin. "Jake, what are you hiding?" she demanded. "Why did you tell everyone Emily never contributes anything? Did you not know she has been helping us?" Jake swallowed. He opened his mouth. He shut it again. He looked like a man trying to find a place to put a wrong thing he had done. At the back of the house, Grandma Rose had been standing with her crochet in her lap. Her hands were not steady anymore. She walked to me slowly and took my hands in both of hers. "Tell me everything," she said, and her eyes were full of quiet fire. "Tell me the whole truth." I sat at the table and felt like I was peeling an onion. There were many thin layers and each layer made my eyes sting. I began at the beginning, because to get to the middle you have to pass the start. I told them about the small designs I sold. I told them about the nights I spent fixing logos and coloring pictures until the sky turned violet. I said I had a small account where money from sales came in. I said I used that money to make transfers into the family accounts when something was due. They listened like people hearing a secret. The man from the bank took notes and nodded. My mother cried softly. My aunt's jaw dropped like she had lost a tooth. Jake's face moved from pale to red to a kind of grey I could not name. "I didn't tell because I didn't want anyone to feel bad taking help," I said. "I wanted to fix things without making anyone embarrassed." I stopped because I could feel my voice fail me. "That you would thank me," Grandma finished gently. "But thank you is not why you did it." I nodded. "I did it because I love you," I said again. "I did it because I could." For a moment, things were quiet in a different way. Not the hush of fear, but the hush of someone listening to a truth. People looked at me like they were seeing me for the first time. My mother's eyes were wet with something like pride and shock. My aunt wiped her hands on her pants because they had nowhere else to go. Then, as if the house had not had enough surprises, Mark looked up from his pad. He said, "We still have to confirm where the funds came from. We have a series of transfers tied to a small company that is showing tax irregularities. We will need to contact your accountant and possibly the IRS to verify. This may take time." Time. The word sounded dangerous. It meant more questions. It meant forms and explanations and a bureaucratic grind that could pull the family apart while it chewed at them. Jake made a small sound that might have been a laugh and might have been a cough. "This is ridiculous," he said. "Emily, how could you? Who told you to use company funds? Who told you to do this?" "No one told me to use company funds," I said. "I used my own money. The company I started was mine. I put my earnings there. The transfers list the company because that's where the payments hit first. I did not take from Grandma or Mom's accounts. I kept my business because I wanted to give, not take." The air felt fragile, like glass. People reached for each other and then thought better of it. My brother's voice came out small and sharp. "Then why did you not tell us? Why hide it?" I thought about that. I had hidden it for many reasons. Pride. Fear of making others feel small. The idea that kindness should not advertise itself. But in hiding, I had let someone else tell the story. I had let a place grow where a lie could sit and wait. I had let Jake say she never contributes anything and have that become truth to others. Because I thought it would be easier this way, I said. Because I thought no one would be proud to accept help if it came with shame. Because I wanted to protect everyone from worry. My mother reached across and squeezed my hand. Her voice wavered and then steadied. We are not ashamed to get help, she said. We are ashamed that someone would make you small. Jake's face crumpled like paper. He did not know how to stand in front of a truth that he had helped make. He kept looking at his phone like it might offer a way to erase what he had said. Suddenly, a different sound cut through the heavy air, a siren in the street. It was not the fire alarm. It was an emergency vehicle driving close. Heads turned to the window. The sky outside was grey and flat. Neighbors peered from across the way like they had tuned in to the same station. What's happening out there? Ben asked. My uncle went to the window and pulled the curtains aside. He pointed. There's a police car, he said. And an unmarked van. And, is that a camera truck? A camera truck. The idea felt like cold paint on fresh skin. Someone had obviously called someone. Someone had decided that this family dinner was worth an audience. Or maybe it was coincidence. Either way, the noise outside made everyone shrink. The curtains trembled as if the wind had hands. My phone buzzed again. Another message. This one was from a neighbor. Is everything okay? I saw someone filming outside your house. My cousin's phone lit up with a social media notification, a live video link from someone streaming from the street. No one moved. The room was a bowl of silence with a single loud sound, the beeping, which had started again, faster now, like a heartbeat that wanted out. Jake looked like a man whose life had become a page he could not rip out. He paled and then shook his head. This is insane, he said. I didn't mean. Then don't try to make her the villain, my aunt snapped. My mother stood and walked to the front door. She pulled it closed gently and then looked through the peephole. She slowly turned back. Her face had new lines in it, lines of anger and protectiveness. She said, whoever called the bank or the police can come in now. We will not hide. At that exact moment, the front door clicked and opened from the outside. A man in a dark jacket stepped toward the porch. He had a camera on his shoulder and a microphone behind him. A woman with a notepad followed, and behind them a line of people were talking into their phones. The camera light blinked like a small artificial sun. The house felt very, very small and very, very loud. The beeping still shrilled in the background. The sound of the camera moving forward was like a second heartbeat. Everyone looked at the group now filling the doorway. The man with the camera looked at me and then at the bank man and said into his microphone, we were called by a neighbor about possible fraud. Folks, we live in front of the Carter house. Miss Emily Carter, are you there? The world outside the doorway had become a stage. The house had become a play. Truth was in the spotlight and I felt the heat on my skin. I had wanted to help quietly. I had wanted to keep dishes clean and bills paid and nights less scary. Now everything I had done was on a screen that could be watched by strangers across town. I felt my breath tighten. My mother reached for the cameraman's arm and said firmly, you can't just, this is our home. The woman with the notepad looked up and said, but we were told there might be an ongoing fraud pattern. We just want to ask a few questions. My heart hammered. The front of the house filled with cameras and voices. The beeping of the smoke alarm grew sharper, more insistent. People in the living room gripped the edge of the table until their knuckles were white. Grandma Rose still held my hand with stubborn strength. I looked at Jake. He had become small in a way I had never seen. He had always stood tall and bold. Now he stood with his head bowed and his hands in his pockets. He looked lost, like a boy who had borrowed something and then forgot where he had put it. The camera's red light blinked. The beeping from the alarm turned into a long, loud tone, different than before, like a warning bell. The man from the bank spoke in a low voice, we need to secure the accounts and get statements. This is not safe to do in public. The cameraman pointed his lens. The light painted the room in hard white. My mother's face was bright and raw. The house smelled of turkey and smoke alarm dust. The front steps were crowded with people who had come to watch. And then, like the final clap in a shocking play, the front window shattered outward with a sharp crack. Glass flew into the air and tiny stars scattered across the floor. A cold draft pushed into the kitchen and knocked a roll of napkins off the table. People screamed and ducked. My mother slammed the door shut as shouts came from the street. No one knew what had just happened. The sound of breaking glass cut the air. A shout from outside said words I could not make out, then silence that tasted like metal. That is where this chapter must stop. The house sat breathing hard. The beeping from the smoke alarm was loud and angry now. Glass glittered like rain on the floor. The camera light flickered. The man from the bank looked stunned. Jake stood very still, as if petrified. The front door was closed, but the window had been broken and a story was rushing in that none of us were ready to hear. Everyone looked at me like a question. The neighbor's camera kept rolling from outside. The beeping kept ringing. The wind carried a sound, voices, sirens, and the slow, heavy footfall of people approaching. I held my breath. My heart kept time. The truth sat in the center of the room like a hot stone. What happens next is not yet told. The glass on the floor still gleamed. The camera light still blinked. The beeping was like a drum. The house waited. The wind pushed through the broken window like a cold hand. It carried dust, tiny flakes of leaves, and the faint sound of people talking outside. The pieces of shattered glass on the floor sparkled under the ceiling light, like stars that had fallen and broken upon landing. No one moved. No one breathed loud. The entire house seemed to hold still, waiting for someone else to make the next mistake. Grandma Rose gripped my arm so tightly her fingers trembled. "Emily, what was that?" she whispered. I didn't know. None of us did. The beeping smoke alarm shrieked again, louder this time, long and sharp, like it was warning us about something we didn't understand yet. My uncle ran back to the hallway. "I swear I turned this thing off," he muttered, pressing the button harder. The beeping stopped, but only for a heartbeat, before starting again in a new pattern, faster, almost frantic. The camera crew outside had fallen silent. The man from the news held his camera close to his chest, whispering to the woman beside him. The police officer who had been walking down the street now stood near the front lawn, shining a flashlight toward the window like he was searching for something on the ground. Inside the house, my brother Jake stared at the broken window with wide, confused eyes. He didn't look angry anymore. He didn't look proud. He looked scared. Really scared. I didn't do anything," he whispered, as if he thought someone might accuse him. "I didn't touch the window. I didn't." "Nobody said you did," my mother said sharply. She spoke like someone who had been strong for too long and was now running out of strength. The man from the bank, Mark, stepped forward slowly. He examined the broken glass carefully but didn't cross the line into the living room. "Everyone, please stay calm," he said, though even he didn't sound calm. "It could have been an accident. Maybe something fell." "Nothing fell," my aunt snapped. "Accidents don't break windows from the outside." Mark didn't argue. My heart thudded painfully in my chest. I felt sweat on my palms. I didn't break the window. None of us did. But something or someone had. And the question why hung in the room like smoke. I swallowed hard. "Maybe a rock or something hit it," I said softly. It wasn't a good guess, and it didn't feel true, but saying something felt better than letting silence grow roots. My cousin Ben walked toward the window cautiously, staying away from the glass on the floor. He leaned forward, squinting. There's something outside," he said. Everyone leaned in. "What do you see?" Grandma whispered. Ben bent lower. On the ground, near the bushes. Something metal. Jake let out a shaky breath. "What kind of metal?" Ben didn't answer. He slowly pushed the curtain aside to see better. His eyes widened. It looks like a small metal box. Or tool. Or, I don't know. It's not just a rock." The cameraman outside finally spoke up, His voice muffled through the window. "Hey, is everyone okay in there?" No one answered him. Because in that moment, something else happened. A loud pounding hit the front door. Thud. 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 Everyone jumped. Grandma clutched her chest. My mother gasped and covered her mouth. The pounding was not gentle. It wasn't polite. It was urgent, like a warning, or like someone demanding to be let in. Jake flinched back from the door, bumping into a chair. "Who is that?" my aunt whispered. No one knew. The pounding came again, harder. Thud. 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 The police officer outside turned toward the porch and shouted, "Sir? Step away from the door. Identify yourself." But whoever was pounding didn't answer. My heart climbed into my throat. The pounding echoed in my ears until all I could hear was the rhythm of fear. My mother took one step toward the door, but Mark lifted his hand. "Don't open it," he said quietly. "Not yet." The reporter outside lifted his camera again. His partner whispered something into her microphone. The smoke alarm beeped again, this time a long, single tone that filled the house like a scream. Everyone stared at the front door. Jake pressed himself against the wall. "What is going on? Why is this happening? Emily, did you do something? Did you?" "Jake," my mother snapped, not another word. He shut his mouth. The pounding stopped suddenly. Silence stretched around us, cold and thin. Then, from the other side of the door, a voice spoke. A man's voice. Low. Calm. Almost too calm. He said, "I know what's in the accounts." Every muscle in my body froze. My mother's lips parted in shock. Jake's knees almost buckled. Mark stiffened like someone had grabbed his spine. Even the reporter outside lowered his camera. The voice came again, steady and chilling. "Open the door. We need to talk. Now." My heart pounded so hard I thought it might crack open. Who are you?" Grandma whispered, her voice shaking. But the man outside didn't answer her. He simply said, more firmly, "Open the door, Emily. My name." He knew my name. My mother stepped in front of me instantly, shielding me with her body. Mark moved closer too, guarding the corner of the doorway as if trained for something like this. My aunt grabbed Grandma's hand and pulled her back. Jake stared at the door like it might explode. "Emily, why is someone asking for you? What did you do?" I felt tears burn the corners of my eyes, not because I was guilty, but because I didn't understand why a man outside knew my name, knew our accounts, and spoke like he had been waiting for this moment. The man spoke again. "Emily, I'm going to count to 5. If you don't open this door, things are going to get a lot more complicated." Outside, the police officer shouted again, "Sir, step away from the door now or you will be detained." But the man didn't seem to care. He began counting. 1. My breath caught. 2. My heart hammered so loudly it drowned the beeping smoke alarm. 3. My mother's hand reached for me and gripped tight. 4. Jake whispered, "Don't open it. Emily, don't open it." The man inhaled as if preparing for something final. 5. And then, a car engine roared behind him. Tires screeched. Something or someone slammed into the porch railing with a loud crash. Voices screamed outside. The camera crew dropped their equipment. The police officer yelled something we couldn't understand. The man at the door stopped speaking. The house shook. Then, silence. Cold, sharp silence. Every person in the room stood frozen like statues, waiting for anyone, to move or speak or breathe. No one did. Not yet. Because something had happened outside that none of us had seen, but all of us felt. And whatever it was, it had just changed everything. The house shook as if something huge had slammed into its bones. The walls trembled. A pie on the counter slid and almost fell. Someone gasped, maybe my mother, maybe me. Outside, voices collided in panic, sharp and wild, like birds suddenly thrown into a storm. For a moment, the world felt like it had been paused mid-breath. Then sound rushed back in shouts, running footsteps, metal scraping against cement, the police officer yelling commands I couldn't make out. Inside the house, we stood frozen. The smoke alarm beeped again, long, shrill, anxious. Grandma whispered, "Good Lord." My mother held my arm so tightly that her nails dug into my skin. Jake pressed his back against the wall, shaking like he had seen a ghost. Mark, the bank investigator, stepped in front of the broken window and held out his hand in a protective gesture, as if his palm alone could hold danger away. "What is happening?" my aunt cried, voice cracking. No one answered. Because none of us had any idea. Then, suddenly, a scream from outside. High, sharp, terrified. Followed by a man yelling, stay down, don't move." My heart lurched. I didn't know if the scream came from the man who had been banging on our door, or someone else entirely. The broken window let in the cold November air along with flashes of frantic movement outside. The porch light flickered, throwing shadows across the lawn that danced and twisted in ways that made my stomach knot. The police radio crackled. "We have one suspect down, unknown injuries, requesting immediate backup." Down. The man who had been counting, demanding, calling my name. My breath caught. Had someone hit him? Was he hurt? Why was any of this happening at all? Before anyone could ask or guess or move, the police officer outside shouted toward the house. "Do not open the door." He sounded scared. Police officers don't sound scared unless something is very, very wrong. My uncle backed away from the doorway like it was on fire. Grandma's hand clutched her cross necklace. My cousin Ben whispered, "What if he had a weapon?" My mother shot him a warning look, but the fear in her eyes matched his words. The house was no longer just loud or chaotic. It felt dangerous. And the danger had arrived, whispering my name. I swallowed hard, the lump in my throat heavy as a stone. "Mom," I whispered, "I didn't do anything. I swear. I don't know what's happening." She pulled me close, her voice shaking. "I know, baby. I know." But her hands trembled. Jake pushed away from the wall and started pacing. "This is insane," he muttered. "This is a nightmare. Some man shows up at Thanksgiving, knowing Emily's name, knowing about the accounts. Who is he? Why is he here? What did you do? Did you?" "Enough," my mother snapped, her voice sharp with a kind of anger I had only heard when someone pushed her children too far. Jake shut his mouth, but his eyes still flicked toward me like he was searching for guilt. That hurt more than I expected. He still didn't trust me. Even after the bank transfers. Even after years of helping silently. Even after the truth had begun to unfold in front of him. Inside me, something small cracked. But before I could speak, movement outside pulled everyone's attention back to the window. Flashlights swept over the lawn. Officers bent over someone lying near the bushes, just out of full view. The camera crew whispered desperately to each other, torn between filming and staying out of the way. A few curious neighbors hovered behind their fences. Someone shouted, "Get an ambulance, now." Then something metallic slid across the ground. A tool? A small box? The shiny metal object my cousin had spotted earlier. My heart hammered. Mark, the bankman, leaned closer to the window, squinting. "That's not a rock," he murmured. "That looks like." He stopped himself. Which scared me even more. "Like what?" I asked. He didn't answer. Instead, he stepped closer to me, lowering his voice. "Emily, has anyone followed you recently? Contacted you? Sent any strange emails? Messages? Anything at all?" I shook my head. "No. Nothing." "Are you sure?" I nodded. Hard. He didn't look convinced. Outside, the officer who had shouted earlier approached the porch again and radioed something into his shoulder. "MIC." The red and blue lights flashed through the broken glass, casting long, trembling shadows across the kitchen. Then another knock. Soft this time. Not loud. Not threatening. Soft. The entire room tensed at once. The knock came again. 3 gentle taps. Tap, tap, tap. Then a voice. A woman's voice. "Hello. Carter family. It's okay. I'm with the police." The voice was steady, calm, controlled in a way that made it feel safe. Or at least safer than before. My mother exchanged a tense look with Mark, who nodded once. "Let me check," he whispered. He moved carefully toward the door, keeping his body between us and whatever lay outside. He cracked it open only a few inches, enough to see the face of the woman speaking. She was in uniform. Hat, jacket, badge. Her expression was serious but kind. "This house is secure," she said quietly. "And you're safe right now. Please stay inside until we finish clearing the scene." "Who was the man?" Mark asked her in a low voice. The officer shook her head. "We don't know yet. We're searching him now." My stomach twisted. "What did he want with my daughter?" my mother asked. The officer glanced toward me. Her eyes softened, but her jaw tightened. "We won't know until we question him if he's conscious. For now, please, don't let anyone else in." She stepped back. The door shut again. My mother locked it twice. The room filled with a heavy, pulsing quiet. The beeping alarm finally stopped. The house exhaled. But no one relaxed. Jake sank into a chair, rubbing his forehead with both hands. "This is my fault," he whispered. "If I hadn't said anything, if I didn't embarrass her, none of this would have happened." My aunt scoffed. "You didn't make a man show up at our house. You didn't make a window explode. Stop making this about you." Jake looked like she'd slapped him. Good, a small part of me thought. But another part hurt for him too. Because family is complicated like that. Mark paced the room. He looked like a man trying to solve a puzzle without all the pieces. The timing of the transfers, the alerts, the man showing up, something is wrong. Very wrong. "Emily, someone knew exactly when you'd be here today." My chest tightened. "But how?" Before he could answer, a loud commotion erupted outside again. Officers shouted. Someone ran. A flashlight beam jerked wildly across the lawn. The woman officer shouted, "Hey! Stop right there." My mother gasped. "There's someone else out there." Ben rushed toward the window again despite everyone yelling at him to stop. He pulled the curtain aside just enough to peek. And his face changed instantly. Pale. Eyes wide. Mouth slightly open. "What?" my aunt demanded. "What do you see?" Ben swallowed slowly. "There's another man," he whispered. "Running. He came from behind the neighbor's yard. And he's wearing." He stopped. My heart skidded. "Wearing what?" I whispered. Ben finally turned toward us. A hooded jacket. And he was staring directly at Emily's window before he ran. Cold shivered down my spine. Jake stood so fast his chair fell backward. "Why are people watching you? What's going on?" I didn't have an answer. I didn't even have a guess. All I knew was this. 2 strangers had come near our house tonight. One had said my name. The other had watched my window. They were connected to something. Something bigger. Something I had unknowingly stepped into. My mother pulled me close again, fear tightening her voice. "Emily, think. Has anyone contacted you about your business? About your money? Anything strange at all?" I shook my head helplessly. "I don't know. I don't know. I didn't do anything wrong. I just helped." And then a heavy knock echoed through the house. Not at the front door. At the back door. Everyone froze. Slowly, so slowly, our eyes turned toward the kitchen. Toward the door that led to the dark backyard. Toward the door none of us had thought anyone would approach. The knock came again. Soft. Slow. Too calm. Then a voice we didn't recognize whispered through the wood. "Emily, open up." And that is where this chapter must stop. The entire Carter family stood frozen, staring at the back door as a stranger whispered my name in the dark. 2 men outside. A broken window. Police lights flashing. Bank investigations. Secrets rising like smoke. And now someone at the back door calling for me. Not angrily. Not loudly. Quietly. As if he knew me. As if he expected me. As if the real story had only just begun. The knock at the back door was soft, deliberate, wrong. The kind of knock that didn't belong in a room full of fear. Everyone turned toward it at once. My mother's breath caught. Grandma clutched her necklace. Jake froze mid-step, his eyes wide with a kind of terror I had never seen in him. The voice came again, quiet, steady, too calm. "Emily, open up." My skin prickled. Cold crawled up my spine like someone had dropped ice down my back. I didn't recognize the voice. Not the tone. Not the way it shaped my name. Not the strange softness in it, like the speaker wasn't demanding, just waiting. Mark, the bank investigator, raised a hand. "Everyone stay away from the door," he whispered. The moonlight from outside cut thin shadows across the kitchen floor. We all watched the back door like it might come alive, like it might inhale. Jake shook his head violently. "This isn't normal. None of this is normal. Who are these people? Why are they at our house? Why are they here for her?" My mother snapped, "Jake, stop." But his fear was unraveling him. Ben whispered from behind us, "Why is he whispering like he knows her?" No one answered. Because I didn't know. My heart beat hard against my ribs. "Mom," I whispered, "I don't know who that is." "I swear." She squeezed my hand. "I believe you." But her voice shook. The knock came again. A single tap. A slow breath. Then, "I just want to talk, Emily." Mark took a cautious step toward the door, stopping a safe distance away. "Sir, this is a private residence," he said loudly. "Police are already here." Step away from the door. Silence. Then footsteps. Slow ones. Walking along the porch outside. But not away. Toward the kitchen window. My breath froze. A shadow moved across the blinds. A tall figure. Watching. Jake stepped backward until he bumped into Grandma. "No, no, 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 this is insane, this is actually insane." The smoke alarm suddenly shrieked again. The loud, sharp beep cut through the air like a blade. Everyone flinched. Grandma nearly dropped her cane. My mother covered her ears. Ben shouted, "Make it stop." In that moment of pure noise, the shadow outside moved closer. Closer. Until a hand, the outline of one, rested against the kitchen window glass. My knees almost buckled. The voice outside whispered, "I know about the account." Something in my stomach twisted. Not because I had done something illegal, but because this man sounded like he knew far more than he should. Mark stiffened. "Emily," he whispered urgently, "did you tell anyone where the transfer money came from?" "No," I said quickly. "No one. I didn't tell anyone except Mom and Grandma." "Did you use your real name on the business filings?" "Yes." Mark's face changed. He understood something. Something I didn't. Jake suddenly grabbed Mark's jacket. "Tell us what's going on." Mark didn't shake him off. He looked directly at me. "Emily," he said carefully, "when you created your small business, did you set it up as a single-person company?" "Yes." "And did you register it yourself?" "Yes." "Using your home address?" I froze. My mouth opened. My heart stopped. "Yes." Mark exhaled. It was the kind of exhale people give when a puzzle clicks into place in the worst way. "Oh my God," my mother whispered. "What does that mean?" Mark looked at the back door, then at the shadow near the window. "It means," he said slowly, "your business information, your name, address, and company details are public record. Anyone who wanted to find you, could." The room dropped into a silence so heavy it felt like it pushed the air down. I felt dizzy. My secret kindness. My way of helping the family quietly. The business I started alone. The late-night work. The quiet transfers. It had not been hidden. It had been exposed. To anyone who looked. Jake swallowed hard. So these men, are they from the IRS? Are they criminals? What are they?" Before anyone could answer, the voice outside spoke again. "I'm not here to hurt you, Emily." He sounded sincere. Too sincere. "I'm here because someone used your business to move money. Money that wasn't yours." My heart flipped. "What?" I whispered. The shadow moved closer. "I've been trying to find you for 2 weeks," he continued. "Your company was flagged. There were transfers, large ones, connected to another account. A dangerous account." Mark stepped toward the window. Who are you? The man outside hesitated, then said a name that made even Mark blink in surprise. My name is Daniel Pierce. I'm with Federal Financial Investigations. I tried contacting Emily through the email listed on her filings. It bounced back. So I came to her last known address. Jake's jaw dropped. Federal? My mother gasped. Why didn't you show your badge earlier? Why did you scare us like this? Daniel exhaled. Because the moment I arrived at the front door, someone else was here. Someone who got to you first. Silence. He continued. And he wasn't with us. The house felt like it shifted beneath our feet. My chest tightened. The man at the front door, he wasn't Federal? No. But he knew my name. Yes. Ben whispered, and the man running in the backyard. Daniel nodded. There are 2 groups here tonight, he said. One is us. He paused. The other is looking for something, and they think Emily has it. My heart hammered so loudly I thought it might crack my ribs. What do they want? I whispered. Daniel's voice dropped lower, almost gentle. They want the missing money. A cold weight sank into my stomach. What money? My mother demanded. Daniel's answer made the room tilt. Your daughter's company was used in a laundering scheme. She didn't know. She wasn't the target. But someone used her business as a pass-through. My pulse skidded. I never saw anything wrong on my accounts, I began. No, Daniel said softly, because the transfers weren't coming to you. They were passing through your business registry. They were using your name as a shield. I felt sick. Jake shook his head. This is a nightmare. How much money are we talking about? Daniel was quiet for a long moment. Then, a little over $200,000. My knees buckled. My mother grabbed me before I fell. Grandma dropped her crochet needle. My aunt gasped loud enough for the whole room to hear. The number didn't feel real. It felt like a punch. Emily didn't take anything, my mother cried. She didn't use any money except her own. She only sent money to help us. I know, Daniel said gently. You're not under suspicion. But the criminals who used your business think the money ended up with your family. Jake backed away slowly, as if trying to escape the truth crawling across the room. Oh my God, he whispered. This is my fault. If I hadn't humiliated her, if she hadn't spoken up, none of this would have come out. That man, he wouldn't have shown up. I shook my head. Jake, no. The money had nothing to do with you. But he wasn't listening. He was spiraling. And then, a loud bang shook the side of the house. Everyone screamed. Another shout outside. He's getting away. Stop him. Flashlights whipped across the yard. Heavy footsteps pounded the pavement. Officers yelled into their radios. A bush rustled violently near the back fence. Daniel cursed under his breath. The second suspect just fled the perimeter. The back door suddenly rattled. Hard. Fast. Frantic. As if someone was testing the lock. Grandma grabbed onto my arm. My mother pulled me behind her. Jake crouched behind the table, shaking uncontrollably. The lock strained. A second rattling shook the door harder. Then, silence. A long breath. And Daniel's voice outside the window said, "Stay back. He's gone." We all sagged with relief. I felt tears spill down my cheeks. My mother wrapped her arms around me and pulled me close. Daniel stepped through the backyard, flashlight in hand, and approached the window cautiously. His voice softened. "Emily, you're not in danger because of anything you did. But someone out there thinks your family has the rest of the money. And until we find out who moved it and where it actually went, you won't be safe unless we protect you." My breath trembled. I just wanted to help my family. I just wanted to be kind. Daniel gave a small, sad smile. And sometimes, he said quietly, kindness pulls you into the middle of someone else's storm. Police lights spun outside like red and blue warnings painted across the night. Officers moved across the yard, searching bushes and fences for the man who fled. The broken window glittered on the floor like shards of a story that had cut itself open. The man from earlier, the one who counted to 5, was taken to an ambulance. The second man had vanished. And the truth had finally broken free. My mother held my face in her hands. Emily, we will fix this. Together. And for the first time in years, Jake stepped forward, tears running down his cheeks. I'm sorry, he whispered. For everything I said. For hurting you. For being wrong about you. I swallowed hard. His voice cracked. You saved us. And I almost destroyed you. We stood together, our family, shaken, scared, but still standing. The worst had come to our door. But we were still here. Still together. Still breathing. And even though the danger wasn't fully gone, something else was finally breaking through the storm. The truth. The truth of what I had done. The truth of who I really was. The truth of how much they never knew. And the truth that everything from here on out would never be the same.